Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leadnap Gaming. It's CitizenCon, and today we're going to focus on some of what came out of the keynote speeches, as well as some of the other stuff mentioned. This is a pseudo-summary focusing on some of the things I thought that were big to come out of today, and while yesterday might have been a kick in the teeth, today has been jaw-dropping. I'm going to start with a quick rundown of some of the big stuff, and then I'm going to get into my thoughts. So, server-side object container streaming, 3.8. You heard it right, it's coming and soon. Server session persistence and general retention, also 3.8. So, really quickly I'm going to explain what those are, just in case you don't know. So, server session persistence and general retention are a really big deal. Right now we're in 3.7.1 or 3.7.2, depending on when this video is released. And what that means is if you go make some money, go buy a shipping game, something like that, right? When 3.8 is released, your account's going to wipe. And if you're new to the verse, your account's going to wipe, okay? You're going to go back to day one. And what server session persistence, right, general retention, what that means is that in 3.8, when you go make money and you have money in your wallet, and you go buy some ships, and those end up in your in-game, and those end up in your hangar, and you rent some ships, right? And when 3.8.1 drops, your account isn't going to reset. You're still going to have those things. When 3.9 comes out, assuming everything's working, you're still going to have that money. You'll still have ships you bought in-game, right? If you put stuff in your hab, it's still going to be there. That's a big deal, okay? Now, that's also important because yesterday I brought up the issue, right? We're going to be rolling out ships in December, January, February, and March, which means 3.8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, which would have meant monthly resets, and that would have been just painful. Well, great news. We have general retention coming in 3.8, which means they're going to be able to roll them out like that, and it's not going to make it pointless to make money or buy ships or do anything in the verse. So, I mean, that is really exciting. Let's digest a little of that right quick. As this means a lot of our lighter patches lately, here at the end of 2019, have really been the framework for the real big lifter of 3.8, which is obviously the object container streaming. The retention states on servers is a major gameplay and quality of life improvement. With that, also, Chris mentioned some of the kind of bug smashing teams, that not their words, mine, but I've been advocating for those. You know, they have a vehicle one, a planet one, they mentioned some other ones that I don't remember right now. But what that really means is they really are trying to get rid of a lot of the bugs and make it really smooth, which is great because that tied in with the container streaming and retention are major stepping stones to release. On that topic, Chris Roberts did point out that last year he laid out 14 steps to release, and in 2019, we did 7 of them, 50%. The next roughly 5 steps are the first half of 2020, if you believe him. That means, based on this metric, a 2021 beta. Now, don't get too excited because this does give a lot of power to my soft release thesis, but a 2022 beta is probably more likely and what we should expect. But 2022 is not that far away, and that is really good news. This also means that by this time next year, how we interact with the verse is going to be wildly different. A lot of the real tech of Star Citizen will finally be on top of us, and that's big for 2 reasons. The first is the last 7 years of them saying all this time and money has been spent building the tools to build the tech that's going to allow them to roll this stuff out quickly wasn't smoke. We're finally reaping those harvestables. Second, and more importantly, it means they believe the road to release is short because CIG has withheld a lot of this stuff outside of demos like CitizenCon to prevent the IP from being ripped off and put into their competitors' games. If they're rolling this stuff out in 3.8, 3.9, and 4.0, it means they're confident they can release soon enough after, and, I mean, that should steal the show right there. Chris's mention on the HABs thing earlier in the day was also a good window into some of this. With full persistence, the bed tech really begins to come into its own. I like where he was going with the idea that you really would have a home base somewhere that you would select, rather than as it is now, where if you die, you just return to the last city you were at. Now, if you go to Hurston and die, but home is set to ArcCorp, you're gonna go back to ArcCorp. This makes the bed tech more important too, because it means logging out in a bed spawns you back at that bed, and wherever that bed happens to be. Thus, it's an important step towards staying or spawning where you want to be, while dying is going to really take you back to square one potentially. Okay, the Carrack was clearly meant to be the crown jewel of the show, right? It opened and closed the show. But PlanetTech, for me, stole the show. I love going down to planets, and the PlanetTech certainly has me so excited that you're now going to have to plan what suits you're going to wear and even just take with you, that you're going to have to change, and we're not going to all run around in the same default pajama suit. I'm so excited. I mean, it looked incredible, and it just blew me away. Hidden behind all of this was their mention of the major overhaul as a result of the tools we were just talking about. In 2 months, they've completely re-procedurally built the room technology into planets, meaning biomes have completely been redone with organic weather and atmospheres and flora. It means in a few months, the game is not even going to be recognizable from itself now. It took them 2 years to get us to where we are today, and it took them 2 months to completely redo it. The big part of this is that the items in the game, your visor, for example, are simulated. They're not programmed. And what that means is when you walk through the snowstorm, for example, the visor gets foggy and covered in snow not because it was an animation that they made, but because the object is reading the room state and adapting accordingly. My jaw dropped when I saw how good it looked, but it hit the floor when they explained the dark magic behind it. Now, a lot of this same environmental tech that we were seeing has also been put into the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, it's not the same tech by any means, but the way it looked, the way it behaves, the way it acts, I was starting to think that maybe Star Citizen was going to fall behind in this department. And, well, that wouldn't be a bad thing because the Microsoft Flight Simulator has been impressive and show-stopping in its own right. The fact that Star Citizen today basically rolled out and said, we're going to do it, and we're not even going to do it for just this planet. Mind blown. I mean, that was just incredible. This is also huge, though, because it adds massive value to some of the items we've completely ignored, right? Ground vehicles and snubs. Now, both in that you're actually going to need them to explore the surfaces of some areas, but that some of the vehicles, like Rangers or Cyclones, are actually going to be limited in harsh environments, say, compared to, say, an enclosed Ursa rover like we saw today. Which also means then that the $50 they're asking for that rover, which always seemed ridiculously high to me, now perhaps actually is beginning to approach some of that valuation. With that, the expanded AI elements they showed off today are looking really good, though there was no mention of crew AI, so NPC crews are probably still pretty far off. That said, today's panel and keynote mention on jump points, and more importantly, the multiple ways in and out of systems, left me quite happy with how system-to-system jumping is going to be implemented. One of my favorite things to come from this in a moment, because I want to cover one other little kind of disappointment first. The look ahead and trailing camera stuff that we see in the roadmap left me a little bummed. I had really hoped these were going to be system features like a halo screen or something that would be a pilot aid. Instead, the auto camera for your eyes, for me, is a little along the lines of it automatically flies it for you sort of a thing, but I do plan to withhold judgment on that until I give it a try. However, if those elements added some it does it for you, the way jumping requires you to actually pilot the jump had me almost jump out of my seat. This introduces a player skill shelf that I think is great. New players are going to be able to get around their initial system easily, but leaving that system and going into the expanse of the verse is going to need a little more skill to learn, and not too much though. It also means that, just like Chris was talking, using the established gates that have the rings that stabilize the jump is going to make that easier for a lot of players to be able to go system to system. But for people trying to run smuggler routes and stuff like that, you're actually going to need a really good jump pilot. Color me happy, because I've wanted piloting to be a career field. And to be a career field, it has to have a skill level that not anybody, just anyone can pick up and do, that you have to spend a little time learning. And jumping, it appears, is going to have a little bit of that. It didn't look too hard, but I could totally see how if you were just jumping from a jump point that was just mapped but never built, that it could be really hard. And that made me really excited. Anyways, guys, like I said before, this isn't even close to everything that came out of CitizenCon today. And even though CitizenCon started a little rough, can I get player 2 on the right screen? It was a blast, and I feel better than I ever have about the future development and release of Star Citizen. For those who've been around since day one, this has been a jubilation. For those who've only been in the verse a few weeks, you couldn't have picked a better and more exciting time to come and enjoy the verse. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought about today's panels and what has you really excited about 3.8, 3.9, and Star Citizen's future. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all next time.